I first saw Shikha when I was about 7, playing outside my dad's hardware shop. It was a slow afternoon. I was drawing on the dusty pavement with a piece of chalk when a sharp scream broke through the street noise. I looked up and saw a girl just my age, running after a woman who walked briskly towards a car. The girl was crying, calling out, "Ma, please don't go." The woman didn't stop. She turned, said something cold like, "Go back to your father," and got into the car without a glance back. The girl stood frozen, silent now, tears streaming down her cheeks. A man, probably her father, appeared moments later and wrapped her in his arms, whispering something as he gently rocked her back and forth. I didn't know who she was, but the image never left me. The next day, the same girl sat in the front row of my class. Her name was Shikha. She, she didn't talk much at first, but she listened, really listened. Her notebooks were always neat, answers always perfect. She raised her hand before anyone else and got everything right. Teachers noticed, kids noticed. Even the strict math teacher smiled when she spoke. And I admired her. Her brain worked like magic. I was the artsy type, messy, dreamy, doodling on the back of my test papers. But Sika, she had this quiet confidence, like she was built for brilliance. I think that's what pulled me towards her. Slowly, we started sitting together. One day, I shared my tiffin with her, and that was it. We became best friends. Years passed just like that. We grew up side by side, from matching pigtails to plates, from crayons to fountain pens, from hopscotch to entrance exams. Somewhere in between, we'd become teenagers, and still, we were inseparable. At home, things had changed too. I was the only child, and my parents adored me. My dad kept a wooden shelf in the shop just for my sketches, and my mom would call the neighbors to come see my latest paintings. But now, Shikha was around so often, she had a toothbrush at our place and her favorite spot on the sofa. My mom loved her, always packing extra food, combing her hair, telling everyone she's such a gem. This girl. Shikha loved her too. "Your mom feels like the mom I never had," she told me once, hugging her from behind as they cooked together. I didn't mind. Not then, not really. Just like that, we were in the final year of school. Our class was preparing for annual exhibition. I decided to work on a portrait, a farmer walking hand in hand with his daughter at sunset. I sketched in my room every evening after school, smudging charcoal, rubbing, erasing. Shika would sit quietly nearby, watching with the calm, curious smile of hers. One evening, she said softly, "I wish I could do what you do, Daisy. You're amazing. Your art, it speaks." I grinned and shook my head. "Ha! Says the girl who solves science problems in minutes and builds robots for fun. You're literally perfect." She rolled her eyes. "I'm not. But thanks." At the exhibition, I won an award for my painting, a portrait of a farmer holding his daughter's hand at sunset. When they called my name, I walked up to the stage with my heart pounding, clutching the little golden trophy like it was a piece of the sky. Meanwhile, Shikha didn't win anything that day, but she'd built a drone from scratch for the science department. It hovered mid-air a few seconds during the display, caught everyone's attention, and then quietly sat in a glass case with her name on a small tag below. We came home together, both a little tired but excited. I placed my trophy on the table with a grin. "Look, Ma, I won!" My mom smiled and clapped. "Wow, very nice, beta." But then Shika slyly added, "I didn't win anything, but my drone was part of the display. It flew well." That's when my parents' eyes lit up. "Drone? You made it yourself?" My dad asked, leaning forward. Shika nodded, a little embarrassed. "From scratch?" My mom sounded amazed. "That's incredible, beta. So smart. Truly gifted." They kept asking her questions: how it worked, how she built it, what she used. My dad even said, "You'll do big things one day, Shikha. Maybe become a scientist or engineer." I stood there quietly, fingers grazing the edge of my trophy. For a moment, it didn't feel like a win anymore. Not really. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when I walked over to Shikha's house. I just reached the gate when, bam, someone bumped right into me. I stumbled and hit the ground with a thud. "Watch where you going," the girl snapped, barely glancing up from her phone. I blinked. "Yee? You're the one not looking." We both glared at each other. Just then the door creaked open. Daisy? Shika's familiar voice floated out. She rushed over and the girl stepped aside, rolling her eyes. Oh, you two met already, Shika said, looking between us. This is Ruby. Her grandma just moved in next door. Ruby gave a lazy wave and walked off, still scrolling through her phone like nothing happened. I stood there stunned, brushing dirt from my skirt. Something about her didn't sit right, and yet I couldn't look away. She was just so unapologetically herself. Inside Shika's house, we flopped down on her bed, laughing about Ruby's ridiculous attitude at the gate. Then, out of nowhere, she dropped it. I said yes to a date, she said casually, twirling a strand of her hair. I almost choked. What? With who? Her cheeks flushed a little. Sam, from the neighborhood. He's a senior. I blinked at her, stunned. Sam? That lanky guy who always wore oversized shirt and walked around with tangled earbuds? Wait, Sam? I asked again, just to be sure. But, I mean, you're you, Shika. You could literally get any guy. She laughed softly. What? What's that supposed to mean? I mean, you're gorgeous. You're smart. And he's, you know, I trailed off awkwardly. Shika smiled, her gaze drifting to the ceiling like she was replaying a memory. He bought a home cooked meal when I had a cold last month. Told me his mom made extra, but later I found out he cooked it himself. I just stared. And remember that day it poured like crazy and I got drenched? She continued. He showed up with an umbrella out of nowhere, waited over an hour just to walk me home. She paused, eyes softening. But the best part, she said, her voice quieter now. He listens, like really listens. He asks about my dreams, my silly ideas, my favorite childhood memories. And he doesn't interrupt or act bored. He's just listens. I looked at her, at the dreamy look in her eyes, the warmth in her smile, and something shifted inside me. I realized that for Sikha, love wasn't about appearance or popularity. It wasn't about what looked perfect on the outside. She saw beauty in kindness, in thoughtfulness, in sincerity. She treasured love, not just receiving it, but feeling it in its rawest, simplest form. I smiled slowly, taking it all in. And in that quiet moment, sitting in her sunlit room surrounded by her half built drone parts, I found myself admiring Shikha even more. After that, I went to study because the exam were approaching. I wanted to make my parents proud. They have worked really hard to keep up with my increasing tuition fees. The next day at school, I waited near the gate scanning for Shikha. She didn't show. Instead, Ruby strolled up, sipping something bright blue and artificial looking. Looking for Miss Genius? She said in a sing song voice. She's out on a date. I blinked. What? She skipped school? Ruby grinned. Yup, wild, right? It was unlike Shikha, but then it became a pattern. She started skipping often, always with a dreamy excuses or no explanation at all. I'd sit under the tamarind tree during lunchtime and draw, filling the empty space beside me. One afternoon, I was working on a rough sketch of an old man feeding pigeon when a voice startled me. You're good, someone said. I looked up startled. It was Ruby. She then flopped down beside me. I didn't know you were so cool, she said, popping gum into her mouth. I looked at her with a smirk. She smiled. You're like really you. It's cool, she said before walking off. I noticed that Ruby always sat alone at the back, walked alone, and even ate lunch by herself. One day during lunch, I decided to approach her. Do you mind if I eat with you? I asked. Oh, sure, she said, looking a little amused. Why are you sitting alone? I asked. Oh, you're here now, leaving your cool friends to pity poor lonely me, she said with a smirk. I was caught off guard. No, I was just curious, I replied. Haha, just joking, she said. I sit alone because I tried making friends, but no one really wanted to talk to me. Maybe I'm too cool. They're probably jealous, she shrugged. But it's fine. I'm not lonely. Her words surprised me. What? That's not true, I said. They're not avoiding you because you're too cool. It's just you're kind of scary. I mean, you're very straightforward in a weird way. She gave me a look I couldn't read. So, why are you here then? Uh, I don't know. I guess I don't think you're that weird, I said. Her eyes widened, and then suddenly she burst out laughing. I was just messing with you. Ha ha ha, I got you. Then she smiled. I'm not the kind of person who hangs around with just anyone. I like to be around with people I actually enjoy. I smiled. From then on, we started talking more. She turned out to be one of the funniest people I've ever met. She was smart, yet somehow delightfully clueless at times. Not only was she hilarious, but also refreshingly straightforward. I genuinely enjoyed being around her. There was something oddly comforting about her presence. Slowly, she slipped into our circle. The three of us would hang out after school, though Shika was often missing. A few weeks later, exams results were pinned to the bulletin board. Ruby and I pushed through the crowd to look. I always start from the bottom, Ruby said with a smirk. Why? I laughed. Easier to find my name. Sure enough, her name was the very last. She had flunked. Congrats, I teased. You really committed to the beat. We moved upward, and suddenly my name jumped out at me. 10th, I gasped. Ruby, look! I actually made the top 10! She clapped. My girl's climbing the ladder. Proud of you. I beamed, heart pounding. I'd stayed up so many nights, skipped weekend sketchings, said no to so many fun things. It all felt like it meant something now. Now let's find our golden friend, Ruby said, scrolling further up. We reached the top. There it was, Shikha, rank 1. We just stared at it. Wait, I said, my voice small. How? She barely came to class, Ruby muttered. She barely studied, I added. There was a weird silence between us. Neither of us knew what to say. I wasn't angry, but I felt something tightening in my chest. Shikha hadn't even seemed to try. God's unfair sometimes, I mumbled, trying to smile. Ruby turned to me, a curious expression on her face. Hey, can I ask something? Sure. Why do marks matter so much to you? I blinked. Because I want to be a doctor. Ruby's eyebrows shot up. You? That stung. What do you mean, you? I asked, folding my arms. No, I mean, you're so creative. You draw like a dream. You're artistic, emotional. Not the type I imagine cutting people open. I frowned. Thanks for the visual, but I want to make my parents proud. They have always wanted me to become something important. Ruby looked at me for a long second and then shook her head. That's scary. What is? Living up to someone else's dream, she said softly. You'll run out of fuel too fast. Ah, you don't understand, I said quickly, brushing it off. You don't have that kind of pressure. Ruby sighed. True. No one really expects anything from me, so I can be anything I want. She leaned back on the bench and grinned. I think I might become a hairstylist. I like playing with hair, and it sounds fun. I stared at her for a moment and then started laughing. Of course you would. What? She pouted. No, I love that about you. You're just free. You don't pretend. You just do what feels right. She winked. Because I have nothing to prove. And I smiled, admiring her in a way I hadn't before. Not because she topped any list, but because she was unapologetically herself. That evening, still glowing from the results, I texted Ruby. Wanna crash out on my place tonight to celebrate making the top 10? She sent back 3 confetti emojis and thumbs ups. Only if you have cake. Later that night, she came over with an overnight bag and a ridiculous pair of pineapple print socks. We laughed and joked all the way through dinner, the excitement still fresh in my chest. I waited until the meal to share the big news. Ma, Pa, I got 10th rank. My mom's eyes widened and she beamed. That's wonderful, Beta. I told you she'd kill it, Dad said, proudly patting my head. I worked so hard, I said, grinning. Then I added, and guess what? Shikha topped the class. My mom's voice changed. The smile vanished. She's really something. That girl. So graceful, so smart. You should learn from her, Daisy. You need to try harder, she said, handing me a bowl without meeting my eyes. You have the potential, but you're too distracted with drawing and stories. I sat down slowly, my appetite gone. It wasn't about the rank anymore. It was the way the excitement flickered and shifted from me to her in a blink. That stung. I swallowed the lump in my throat and tried to laugh it off. Ruby glanced at me, then cleared her throat. Auntie, I ranked last, so trust me, your daughter's practically a genius. They didn't even smile. I forced down the rest of my food, pretending I didn't care, but my appetite had vanished. Later, as we headed to my room, my mom followed us halfway. Daisy, she said in a low tone, Papa will drop Ruby home. I frowned. What? She's staying over. My mom shook her head, soft but firm. It's not appropriate. But we already. She'll understand. She cut me off, her eyes flicking towards Ruby. We'll talk later. Ruby had heard. She looked at me and gave a soft shrug. It's okay. I'll see you at school. I followed her out, embarrassed, furious, and heartbroken all at once. Later that night, after Ruby had left, I stood in the kitchen while Mom cleaned up. Why did he do that? I asked. She didn't even look up. You shouldn't be hanging around with girls like her. Girls like what? She's kind. She encourages me. She's fun. She's aimless, my mom snapped. Hairstylist, really? That's what she wants to become? That's not ambition. That's laziness. I clenched my fist. Maybe she's not just pretending to be someone else. My, my mom paused, then turned away. I stood there for a moment longer before going to my room. I sat on my bed, staring at my sketchbook, but didn't draw a single line. For the first time, the house didn't feel like home. It felt like a spotlight, always shining, where I couldn't quite reach. Just like that, school was officially over. No more uniforms, no more rushing to morning assemblies, no more notes passed during boring lectures. It felt surreal. The three of us sat at the school terrace one last time. Ruby, Shikha, and me, watching the sunset as the horizon painted the sky with all the colors we didn't know we'd miss. Ruby was the first to break the silence. So, I got in. I looked at her, surprised. Into the academy in Pune, she said, twirling her phone. Hairstyling and cosmetology, full time course. Starts next month. Shika jumped and hugged her. That's amazing. I smiled. You're really doing it, huh? Ruby grinned. I want to see what it feels like to chase my dream. The goodbye was scheduled a week later. We met at our favorite ice cream parlor. Three chairs, one small table, and way too many sprinkles. I ordered a classic vanilla. Shikha got butterscotch. Ruby, she asked for three giant scoops, chocolate fudge, strawberry cheesecake, and mint explosion in one waffle bowl. Shikha raised an eyebrow. You're insane. Ruby took a dramatic bite and grinned. I'm memorable. We laughed loudly, happily, like we didn't know the next chapter would pull us apart. Before leaving, Ruby hugged us both for a long time. Crack the exam. Be the kick ass doctor you meant to be. I held her tight. Go make the world as beautiful as you are. She winked. Always. The next few months flew by. Shikha and I dived headfirst into medical entrance preparation. Long nights, red eyes, notes, revisions, mock tests. Some days we studied together, others apart, but the goal was the same. Finally, result day arrived. I sat on the couch, legs bouncing, heart in my throat. I couldn't bring myself to check. Papa, can you log in? He nodded and typed slowly, too slowly. I clutched my hand, whispering to myself, please, please, please. Then I looked at his face, still, blank. My stomach sank. No, I whispered. He shook his head gently. I'm sorry. I felt my world go still, like something hit pause on everything but the pain. My fingers went numb, my throat tightened. Just then, my phone rang. Shikha. I hesitated, then picked up. Daisy, I caught it! I got in! She screamed. I could almost hear her jumping on the other side. I smiled weakly. That's amazing. She stopped. You you didn't, did you? I tried to speak, but the lump in my throat betrayed me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I hung up before I broke down completely. Later that evening, while I sat on my bed staring at the ceiling, I overheard my parents in the living room. Shikha married, huh? That girl's got a spark, my mom said. She's always been focused, my dad replied, unlike Daisy. She needs to work harder next time. They weren't cruel, but it stung more because it was true. To them, Shikha was the standard. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I turned to my wall, the one where I had taped sticky notes with formulas, motivational quotes, reminders to myself. They blurred through my tears. I buried my face in my pillow and whispered something I never thought I would. I wish I never met Shikha. Because sometimes loving someone too much means measuring yourself against them until it breaks you. A week after the entrance result, I was still curled up on my bed, half covered in a blanket, my study notes untouched for days. Everything felt heavy, my limbs, my heart, the silence. Then came a quiet knock. Beta! My father's voice was soft as he stepped in and sat beside me, his hands gently resting on my shoulder. You gave it your all. I know that. But sometimes good things take time. I didn't say anything. I just kept staring at the small crack on the ceiling, letting the silence speak for me. How about giving it one more year? He asked. We'll get you the best coaching, no pressure, no disturbance. Just one more try. I turned to face him. My voice came out, low but steady. Okay. And so the months rolled by. Quietly, I buried myself in books, shut out the noise of the world, especially anything that reminded me of Shikha. Her photos started flooding my feed, her smiling in white coat, surrounded by new friends, sipping coffee like she was living in a dream. It wasn't envy, it was the sting of being left behind, the ache of not being enough, of not being there. Eventually, I couldn't take it. I deactivated everything: Instagram, Facebook, even WhatsApp. I stopped replying to Shikha's text too. I told myself it was for focus, but truthfully, it was the only way I could survive. One evening, my phone buzzed. Ruby calling. I hesitated, then picked up. Guess what? Her voice crackled with excitement. I'm back, only for a few days. Shikha's birthday is coming up. We're meeting. You have to come. Something in me softened. Her voice felt like the past, warm, safe, familiar. I'll come, I said before I could overthink it. Shikha's birthday was a cozy little gathering in her backyard. Balloons floated gently in the breeze, and the scent of chocolate cake wrapped around everything. As soon as I stepped in, our eyes met. She smiled wide and wrapped me in a hug. Oh my god, it's next to impossible to get an appointment, man, she teased. Is that true? Ruby chimed in from behind. For a second, it felt like nothing had changed. But then, I saw them. Shikha's new friends, loud, confident, effortlessly cool. I felt small beside them, like I was visiting a world I no longer belonged to. But the awkwardness didn't last. I found myself laughing again, teasing Ruby, who was still the queen of chaos, juggling three ice creams while the rest of us struggled with one. It felt almost normal until it didn't. We were sitting around, swapping stories, when Shikha turned to me. So, Daisy, do you have a plan B? I blinked. Plan B? You know, just in case if mid school doesn't work out again this time? Her words hit me like a slap. I stared at her, heart pounding. Why would it not work out? Her smile faded. I didn't mean it like that. I was just asking, you think I'm going to fail again? No, I just meant to be practical. I stood up, my voice shook. You're so arrogant, Sikha. You made it once and now you talk like you're better than everyone? Her tone sharpened. Are you serious? Do you even hear yourself? You think mid school is a dream. I cry through most of the weeks trying to keep up. You don't know what you're walking into. At least you're walking, I shot back. I'm still stuck proving myself again. And all you do is doubt me? Ruby jumped in. Daisy, please, don't take it wrong way. She didn't mean. And you? I turned to her. You think the same, don't you? She looked on. I just meant you're so talented. You can do so many things. So why doctor? Tears welled in my eyes. Because I want to make my parents proud. Because I want to prove that I'm not just a girl who draws and daydreams. I want to show them that I can do this, that I am enough. Silence fell over the backyard. I took a shaky breath. My voice was low but cold. I thought you two were my friends. Turns out you're worse than strangers. At least strangers don't pretend to care. And I walked away. For months, I didn't contact any of them. Finally, the result came. I sat in front of my laptop, fingers trembling as I typed in my roll number. My chest tightened with each spinning second the page took to load. I thought about calling Baba like last time, but no, not this time. This time I had to face it alone. And then it appeared. Qualified. My eyes widened. I blinked, not sure if I was imagining it. I checked again to confirm. It was real. I made it. I made it. A shaky breath escaped my lips as I clutched my chest. Tears streamed down, but they weren't heavy like before. These were light, freeing, joyful. I didn't even realize I was already on my feet running. I had to tell Baba. I flew through the narrow streets, the wind kissing my face, dodging scooters and fruit carts like I was chasing a dream. As I turned a corner near the tea stall, I saw her, Shikha. She was walking on the opposite side of the road, arms in arm with her boyfriend, laughing softly. I slowed, my breath caught in my throat. I looked straight at her, hoping just for a second that she would look back, but she didn't. No glance, no nod, nothing. She walked past like I didn't even exist. I froze stunned. Then something inside me clicked. My eyes narrowed. I rolled them, turning away, and walked on. That chapter was over. Let it stay that way. When I reached Baba's shop, he was wiping down the counter, like always. I did it! I shouted, breathless. He turned, confused for a second. Then his eyes widened. You? I got in, Baba. I'm going to medical college. He didn't say a word at first, just pulled me into a tight hug, his rough hand cuddling the back of my head. You did it, my girl, he whispered. You made us proud. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftop, my phone buzzed again. Ruby calling. I stared at the screen. I hadn't spoken to her since the fight. I hesitated. Then I picked up. Hey, angry bird, came her familiar voice. Just like that, something in me melted. My shoulder relaxed, my lips curved. Ruby, I exhaled. Congratulations, dummy. I laughed. How did you know? I knew you would make it. Also, I know you. You wouldn't have answered my call if you hadn't. We both laughed. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. I felt happy. Really, truly happy. The gates of the medical college loomed in front of me, tall and intimidating, like a momentum to every sleepless night, every tear, every ounce of hope I had clung to. I stepped through them with my heart pounding, nerves buzzing just beneath my skin. The air smelled of fresh beginnings and disinfectant. Around me, students bustled in white coats and lanyards, chatting like they had known each other forever. Their laughter echoed through the wide corridors, and for a moment I felt like an imposter in a world I had fought tooth and nail to enter. I clutched my bag tighter and kept walking, wide eyed and quiet. Groups had already started forming, new friendship blooming over shared timetables and inside jokes. I was still absorbing it all when a group of seniors passed by. Their coats were whiter, their walk more confident, almost like they belonged to a different league. And there I saw her, Shikha, my once best friend. She slowed for a split second. Our eyes met. I saw something flicker across her face recognition, maybe even a flash of joy. But just as quickly, her expression turned blank. She looked away and kept walking. My heart stumbled, unsure what to make of it. Did she really not care? Or was she pretending not to? I shook it off and kept walking. The weeks blurred into a storm I wasn't ready for. Textbooks as thick as bricks, diagrams that danced before my eyes, lectures that felt like they were spoken in a foreign language. Every day I tried. I really, really tried. But nothing here came easy. My classmates moved ahead like they had some secret manual I didn't yet. I stayed up late, woke up earlier, skipped meals. My fingers ached from note taking, my eyes burned from staring at pages that refused to make sense. And in that quietest moment, I heard Shikha's voice from that day at her birthday party. You don't even know yourself. Medical is not a joke. Maybe she was right, but I couldn't let her be. I couldn't let anyone be right about me not making it. So I kept pushing. My body weakened, but my will didn't. I couldn't afford to let it. One afternoon, after an especially long session in the anatomy lab, I stumbled out into the corridor, dizzy, half aware of where I was going, and nearly walked straight into someone. Shikha. We both froze. She looked at me, really looked. Her eyes scanned my face. The shadow beneath my eyes, the way my hands were trembling just trying to hold my notebook. Her mouth opened slightly. I thought she might say something, but she didn't. She stepped aside, and I walked past her like we were nothing but strangers. The first year ended, and I passed. Barely. I stared at the screen, the numbers blurring. It should have been enough. It was enough to move forward, but to me, it felt like failure. I thought of my professor's comment. Why medicine, Daisy? You're clearly struggling. You have a creative spark. Why not something else? You'll do well elsewhere. Their words stuck like thorns in my chest. I carried them back to my room. I carried them into my dreams. I'd lie in my hostel bed, the ceiling above me silent and still, while my mind screamed. Did I make the wrong choice? I had come here to prove something that I was more than just a girl who sketched quietly in the corner, that I could do this, that I could become someone that could be proud of. But I didn't feel proud. I just felt tired, and the dream I had held so tightly, it didn't shine the way it used to. All that was left was doubt, and I didn't know if I had enough strength to fight it. The second year of college, I don't remember the last time I felt okay. Every day felt like a fog I was trying to walk through. Textbooks in my lap, words blurring together, my thoughts running in circles. I wasn't eating well, I wasn't sleeping. The lectures made no sense anymore. I sat through them with my head pounding and my hand numb. I was there, but I wasn't present. And one afternoon, as I walked towards the market, I didn't see the car. I didn't hear it. All I remember was blinding light, a loud honk, and the deafening silence that followed. I opened my eyes. The ceiling was white, too white. A faint beeping sound echoed somewhere near my ear. My throat was dry, my body heavy, like someone had tied bricks to my limbs. I blinked slowly, confused by the sterile smell and unfamiliar sound. Then I heard a soft gasp. Daisy! It was Mom. Her voice cracked as she stood and leaned closer to me. Her eyes filled with tears the moment our eyes met. She's awake! She cried out. Doctor, Daisy's opened her eyes! Her hand gripped mine tightly, trembling. I wanted to ask where I was, what happened, but my voice wouldn't come out. Then I saw someone approach her from the doorway, a, a familiar figure holding 2 cups of coffee. It was Shikha. She looked the same, tired, maybe, but strong as always. Her hair was tied in a messy bun, her coat half buttoned, and there were dark circles under her eyes, but her smile broke through all of that. She walked over and handed 1 cup to my mom, then turned to me. You gave us a heart attack, she said softly. A small tear rolled down my cheek as I smiled weakly. I guess I like making dramatic energies, I whispered. Shikha chuckled and sat beside me, taking my hands in hers. We didn't speak for a while. We didn't need to. In fact, the silence between us wasn't heavy. It was healing. All the misunderstandings, the distance, the silence of the past, it slowly melted away in the one shared moment. Then came a voice from the door. Well, about time Sleeping Beauty decided to wake up. We turned. It was Ruby. She stood there in a beige trench coat, hair tied neatly, holding a small bag of snacks and a bouquet of wildflower. Shikha smiled. Look who's finally here. I was waiting for her to wake up before making my grand entrance, Ruby teased, walking in. Besides, I'm here getting updates from Nurse Shikha every few hours. I let out a raspy laugh, tears still drying on my cheeks. As I lay there, I looked around the room, Mom sitting beside me, Shikha on one side holding my hand, and Ruby placing flowers in a cup on the window shelf. I realized something in that moment. They, they were all here. While I had been lying unconscious, people who loved me had been moving the world around to care for me. Shika came to check on me whenever she could, between lectures, between exams. But Ruby stayed. She sat beside me, left only when absolutely needed, and even helped with discharge paperwork later. She wasn't just like a friend anymore, she had become family. During the hospital stay, one evening, as Ruby was feeding me grapes and cracking dumb jokes, Shika looked up from her seat and smiled. By the way, guess who's all over the magazine? Ruby rolled her eyes. Oh, please don't. Your friend here, Shika continued, looking at me. She's been featured in fashion magazines, newspapers, and even TV interviews. Her work's gone viral. People adore her. Ruby tried to play it cool, but I could see the pride in her eyes. And Shika added, she's opening her own salon right here in our town. I looked at Ruby, and a wide smile spread across my face. I'm so proud of you, I said, and I meant it. No envy, no insecurity, just joy. Because when you truly love someone, their success feels like your own. From that day, every evening turned into a storytelling hour that tell me what was happening in the outside world. Funny incidents, serious news, new trends. Ruby mimicked people. Shika filled in the gaps. I'd listen and laugh like a child. During the discharge, the doctor said I needed at least a month of bed rest. Weirdly, I wasn't upset. I wasn't panicking about the second year exam I was going to miss. I just felt relief, like someone had finally hit the brakes in a life that never stopped running. Shikha returned to college. She had a lot on her plate, PG entrance prep and classes. But Ruby came home with us. Mom, who once frowned at Ruby's career choices and loud personality, now looked at her with softness. She even asked Ruby questions about her hair and salon decor. That shift, seeing my mom smile at Ruby, meant more to me than words could really say. Ruby got back to her work, juggling appointments, travel, and planning her salon lunch. But no matter how busy she was, every evening she would come to see me. Sometimes she brought snacks, sometimes flowers, but most days she brought colors, watercolors, sketchbooks, pencils, acrylics. You need a little therapy. That doesn't involve doctors, she'd say, handing me a canvas. And she was right. Painting healed something inside me. Each brushstroke gave me peace. I lost myself in colors, created a world that didn't expect me to be perfect. I still didn't know where life was taking me. I had failed twice, but I had people who hadn't given up on me. And maybe I was learning not to give up on myself either. It took just a month for my wounds to heal, but it was taking forever to learn how to walk again. I had to start from zero. Each step felt like lifting mountains. And then came the news. I would have to repeat the whole academic year. I tried not to let it get to me, tried to stay strong, but some days it broke me inside. One evening I was sitting on the floor, legs stretched out, sketching sunflowers in my diary, softly humming a tune Ruby had once played for me. I didn't notice Mom standing by the door. She walked in quietly, sat beside me, and watched for a while. Then, in a soft voice, she said, why don't you study a little, Daisy? It will help you when college starts again. You've already lost times. This will make things easier. I froze. Her words, though calmly said, stuck deeper. College, repeating the whole year, failing behind while everyone else moved ahead. Suddenly, my heart started to tremble, my chest tightened, my mind spun. 2 years wasted. How could I ever catch up? It took 7 full months before I could finally stand straight, walk without fear, and look at myself in the mirror without flinching. The doctor said I was ready, so I returned to college, back to the place where it all began. But when I stepped through the gates, something felt off. My batchmates were gone, already third year now. I was a stranger in my own story. Then I saw Shikha. She ran up, gave me a warm hug, and promised, I'll help you with every step of the way. You're not alone. I smiled, a little comforted. Maybe I could do this. I tried harder than ever before, attending every class, taking extra notes, staying up late to study. But despite everything, I failed my second year again. When the results came in, it felt like my entire world shattered beneath me. At home, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, numb. Mom found out. She didn't yell, but somehow her disappointment was worse. Why is it always Daisy? She said, shaking her head. Everyone else's kids make their parents proud. Me? Why do I have to beg my own daughter for that? Tears burned my eyes. I turned away. You've humiliated me in front of everyone. Do you know what they say about me behind my back? That my daughter can't even pass her second year. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I locked myself in the room for days after that. It was my 25th birthday. Dad knocked softly on my door that morning. He walked in holding a small gift. He sat beside me and placed a hand on mine. Daisy, you're a fighter, he said. You've been through more than most. You can still make it, okay? Don't give up on yourself. I looked into his eyes, and I hated myself in that moment for letting him down. That evening, the dining table was decorated with all my favorite dishes. Mom had cooked them herself. For a brief moment, I felt grateful. Then, as we sat in silence, she spoke. Shika's already in her practical year. That girl always been amazing, she said. Her parents must be so proud. My chest tightened. Then she added casually, even Ruby's doing amazing. She's self made and fearless. You know, she even helped us with money during your accident. I blinked, stunned. I had no idea. She's a smart girl, Mom continued. Maybe you should try something like that. Maybe ask Ruby for a job at her salon. She might help. The fork in my hand dropped with a clang. You're unbelievable, I whispered, voice shaking. Then louder. You really don't get it, do you? She looked at me confused. I'm miserable, Mom, and all I ever tried was to make you happy. I thought if I could make you proud, you'd finally see me. But nothing is ever enough for you. Daisy, Dad tried to stop me. No, let me speak, I cried, slamming the table as tears burst from my eyes. You keep comparing me to everyone else, wishing I was someone else. I lost myself trying to be the daughter you wanted. But I'm still not good enough, am I? Daisy, calm down, Dad pleaded. I pushed back my chair, breathing hard. I'm done. I stormed out of the house, tears blinding my eyes. I sat alone on a cold bench in the park, my knees pulled tightly to my chest. The wind brushed against my skin like whispers, quiet reminder of everything I had failed to become. I cried, first in silence, then like a storm I could no longer hold back. There was no one there to hear me, except the moon. Eventually, when my eyes were swollen and my chest ached from sobbing, I stood up. There was only one place I could think of, one place that felt safe, Ruby's apartment. When Ruby opened the door, she didn't ask a single question. She just opened her arms, and I fell into them. That night, I talked and talked about my fears, my failures, my mother's harsh words, the dreams I'd quietly buried over the years. I didn't even realize how much I'd been holding it until it came rushing out. Ruby never interrupted. She just listened, fully, like I mattered. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like maybe I did. The next morning, sunlight crept gently into the room, brushing against my face. I opened my eyes slowly and was met with two grinning faces right above me.
Happy
Happy
birthday!
birthday! Ruby and Shika screamed in unison, crashing into me with the kind of hug that would glue broken hearts back together. I blinked, confused. Shika, when did you? This morning, she beamed, looking far too energetic for how emotional last night had been. Before I could ask more, Ruby placed something in my lap, a soft, elegant dress wrapped in a satin ribbon. Now go freshen up. You've got 15 minutes. But, no buts, she said, pushing me towards the bathroom with a mischievous grin. Just trust us. Still dazed, I got ready and let Ruby drive me through the quiet roads into the city. Shikha was buzzing in the passenger seat, but neither of them told anything. Finally, we stopped outside a grand building with glass walls and a name I didn't recognize. Where are we? I asked, heart fluttering with both nerves and curiosity. You, you'll see, Ruby said, winking. Inside, the place was stunning. Gilded walls, elegant tables, and people dressed like they belonged in magazines. I felt entirely out of place. A woman stood on stage. Thank you all for coming to the Art Rising annual showcase. Tonight, we celebrate creativity, courage, and new beginnings. I looked around, still confused. Then came the awards, applause, cheers, more names. Then the host said, the Rising Expressionist Award for Bold Narrative and Raw Emotions in Visual Art goes to Daisy. I froze. My name? Ruby and Shika erupted in cheers. Yay! Go Daisy! Ruby yelled, hugging me like I'd won the Olympic. Shika gave me a playful push. Go up there! I stumbled toward the stage, still unsure if I was dreaming. Then I saw it. My painting, lit up behind the host, the one I'd drawn in my room while quietly humming to myself, the one I never intended anyone to see. My heart stopped. I turned and looked at Ruby. Her eyes sparkled with pride. That's when I realized what she had done. She had taken my painting, submitted it, believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. With trembling hands, I accepted the award. I, I didn't expect this, I whispered into the mic. I don't even have words, but thank you from the deepest part of my heart. I stepped back from the mic, my hands still shaking, and that's when it hit me. The sound. Applause. A rising wave of claps and cheers filled the hall. Real, loud, heartfelt. People stood, strangers, artists, guests, all applauding me. My throat tightened, my heart welled up again. But this time it wasn't from sadness. It was something else entirely. Joy, relief, a sense of being seen. I looked out over the crowd and spotted Ruby and Shikha standing too, clapping like their lives depended on it, faces lit up with pride. I pressed the award gently to my chest and let the moment wash over me. For the first time, I felt like I belonged. I hadn't even settled into my seat when a man in a sharp suit approached me. Miss Daisy, I was truly impressed, he said. Would you be interested in collaborating on an international art project? We are looking for emerging voices like yours. I kept. I, I, I don't know what to say. She'll do it, Ruby chimed in, stepping forward like she had just got promoted. I'm her assistant. Here's her card. And you can share yours too. I stared at her. Assistant? Shikha burst into laughter. Really? Ruby shrugged. Somebody's got to make her famous. I couldn't have believed what was happening. Was this real? As we drove back, Shikha turned in her seat with a grin. By the way, Daisy, there is more. She handed me her phone. An Instagram page filled the screen. At the rate art by Daisy. And that's how my new journey began. Not as someone else's shadow, but as myself, ready to rise.